So let's talk heads-up display. Augmented reality is something that I've always been very interested in. I would totally have tried Google Glass at some point if that had continued to be a product, but they never did make a version that fit with existing pairs of glasses or that had a left-handed interface. But anyway. So the question is, if you had a heads-up display within your vision that showed you information about people you were looking at, what information would that be? When we first came up with this topic, my immediate first thought was simply someone's name. I remember Matt being surprised that that was something I thought would be necessary. But you know, I can remember people's faces, I can remember people's voices, but I have a real problem associating those with a name sometimes, particularly with people that you don't see very often or that you have been recently introduced to. Too many times you were introduced, you know, in a loud environment, or it was just really quickly in passing, and the name just doesn't stick. So for me at least, it would be really handy to just know people's names when you looked at them. But there's actually a bit more to it than that. You don't actually want to know people's names necessarily, at least not their official one. What you want to know is how they would like to be referred to. Many people choose a different name than their official name, and while we're there you may as well also add preferred pronouns, because that sort of fits in with the whole idea of how someone wants to be referred to. I think I can get away with that just being one of the three items. But after that, I wasn't entirely sure what else I would want to be there. Dave, Posh and Elliot all mentioned some slightly similar ideas of wanting to know the emotional state of others to varying degrees. And I have to kind of agree that that sort of information would be incredibly useful. To know exactly how someone was feeling about themselves or about you. But when you switch it around and think about other people having that information about yourself, it starts to feel like too much of an invasion of privacy for me. So I think that I would prefer to stick to kind of stricter facts rather than anything deeply personal. And then I realised that there is one thing that when meeting new people I always like to ask, and that's the simple question, like, what is your favourite TV series? It's a fairly simple and kind of innocuous piece of information, but it also kind of tells you quite a lot about the kind of person someone is, while still at the same time also being kind of vague. I guess that's more important for people you're only just meeting for the first time though, but it does give you sort of like a brief compatibility test. Okay, like you would kind of know that you're more likely to have more in common with someone whose favourite is Buffy the Vampire Slayer as opposed to someone whose favourite was EastEnders. And obviously it's way more complicated than that, but it's sort of a nice jumping off point. But I guess that as I'm talking myself out of it being a stat I should see all the time now, because once you've met someone, you don't need a constant reminder of that. But the only other thing that's coming to my mind is similar to one of Dave's options, is that I would probably like some information about the context of how I know the person and the history of our relationship. When did we meet? When did we last see each other? What mutual friends have we got? Generally important events that we were both involved in. But putting that all together as like a personal history stat kind of feels like cheating when that's at least 4 or 5 different things really. So I guess if we drop the favourite TV series stat and pick out of the personal history stats, I would probably most want to know where and when we met and where and when we last saw each other. Mutual friends can often lead to interesting discoveries, but it's not as important, and Facebook can do that. So I think that's what my choices for stats would have to be. Things that augment my own memory rather than things that are pulling information directly out of the other person's mind. Final little side note, if you're interested in the idea of augmented reality and like to read a bit of sci-fi, then you should check out some books by Peter F. Hamilton. He's written multiple different sci-fi series and most of them have some kind of augmented reality concept built into the world. Highly recommended, links in the doobly-doo. Thanks very much for watching, and Liz will see you tomorrow.